because I believe science might offer an answer to the curse of the Bambino.
Why someone took so long to hire that guy is beyond me. Anybody who's not tearing their team down right now and rebuilding it using your model, they're dinosaurs. One of the great things about money is it buys a lot of things. One of which is the luxury to disregard what baseball likes, doesn't like, what baseball thinks, doesn't think. This is threatening, not just a way of doing business, but in their minds, it's threatening the game.
How can you not be romantic about baseball?
All right, welcome to another Baseball Ops podcast here. Special guest today, Andrew Beinbrink. I'm saying it right, Andrew, aren't I?
100%. Most people butcher it, but dude, you should have been in the spelling bee.
Mine's just as bad. It's funny how I have probably the hardest name to say, and I really suck at saying people's names. So I'm glad I didn't butcher it too bad. But I'm excited to have you on, Andrew. We'll be talking about recruiting. We really haven't done a lot on the show in regards to recruiting. It's a big topic. It's a big part of the game. I'm excited to dive into it today, and I think we got a great expert here with Andrew, who's had a great career in the game of baseball. I'll let you go into it more, but I know just from seeing your bio and us getting to know each other a little bit, I know you did really well in college ball. You played is Arizona State, right?
That's correct.
And then you was seventh round draft pick. Am I nailing it?
Exactly.
And then you pulled some good years in pro ball. You got some good time in AAA. Did you ever get a big league call up?
I did not. Just got some, big league spring training, games. So.
Well, that's tough. Like that's kind of like coming in second place in the Olympics, right?
Well, what's funny is obviously we're all here, to serve a certain purpose, and I truly believe in my heart of hearts that my purpose wasn't, to continue to stay on the ball field as just a baseball player, but really to get back into the baseball community and work to be a leader in the community and really try to, further the development of these young men and families that are going through this whole, high school to college to professional baseball journey that I went through myself and a bunch of my friends went through, and really let them know that there's a path, that this game can touch your life and really set yourself up with baseball in your education, to build a life of your dreams, which is, one of the underlying, I guess, drivers of why I do what I do and why our organization does what it does.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, incredibly impressive career. And I think, of course, just what you've been through, you know it all. It looks like, being drafted, playing at a top level D1, working up the ranks of minor league ball. I think you have personally experienced every level of this game. So I think you're just on that alone, you're obviously a great guide into helping others do the same. So talk about, if there's any more I missed on your accomplishments, and then kind of go in more into your goal of when you started Sports Force and you started this recruiting machine. Kind of talk about how it all happened.
Absolutely. I'll rewind the clock. I went through the recruiting process 25 years ago. So I was drafted out of high school by the Red Sox, decided to go to Arizona State on a pretty good, substantial scholarship. But recruiting was night and day different. I didn't start getting contact from college coaches until the fall of my senior year. Literally area codes, and there was a few other showcases that were prominent, but area codes was the best of the best out in Long Beach, California. Hundreds of college coaches there, hundreds of agents there, and recruiting didn't happen, really until the summer before the senior year, and then contact usually, in August, September, October of the senior year. And that's, changed so dramatically, in the last 10 years with how accelerated this process has gone. But going through that process back then and also with a group of friends of mine from Southern California, we all had different paths. One of my buddies went the junior college route. Another one went to Tulane. Another one went to a Division II school. And, at the end of the day, what we saw was just a massive lack of understanding and parents' education on, ultimately how to choose the best fit school and how to make, such a huge decision, which is, where's your son going to go to college? So that was the impetus and the driver for starting, Sports Force 10 and a half years ago.
Well, cool. So I'm intrigued too. We're almost the same age here. You're September 24th. I was October 12th. We're pretty close, 1976. And you're born in Italy, man. Like, you're Italian, right?
My dad was in the Navy, so we traveled kind of the world, and Italy was where I was born in Napoli, Pozzuoli. But no, I'm not actually of Italian descent, just by birth. And lived in Seoul, Korea, lived in Newport, Rhode Island, lived in Long Beach, California, lived in San Diego, until I went off to college. And
what was your dad, Air Force or Navy?
He was Navy. He was a captain in the Navy. Most of his career,
my dad was a captain in the Navy, man. We were like long lost brothers, dude.
There you go. Separated at birth, like stepbrothers Will Ferrell and that other dude.
Yeah. No way, man. Well, cool. So, so I'm pretty excited. I think Sports Force has really grown over the past 10 years, and you've really become a more powerful force in baseball. Why has baseball been so good? Is it just because of the growth of the game, or you just guys have really done well just due to your experience?
Well, I think baseball has some unique attributes to it where obviously you're getting a lot more measurables, and metrics and analytics than ever before. However, it's still quite a subjective sport where college coaches are trying to evaluate a lot of different players to try to narrow it down, to the 5 to 10 or 12 kids that are going to be part of each recruiting class. And it's not easy. And I'll just give you a quick, explanation of what a typical college coach is dealing with. Imagine seeing 2,000 to 3,000, maybe 4,000 unique players per summer, per grad year. So let's say right now, 2021s, right? Or 2020s, rising seniors. These college coaches are seeing so many players. They're going to build a follow list of a few hundred players that pique their interest. They're going to build like a high follow list and personal interest list of anywhere between 50 to 150, sometimes more, that they're looking to communicate with. And then they're going to narrow that down, to a smaller list, and that they're going to, start to make offers for and want to get visits on campus. And then your offer list is going to be less than who ends up signing and committing. So it's a very steep funnel from 2,000 to 4,000, down to that 5 to 12 number per recruiting class. And the reason I bring that up is because as a player going through this process, you need to understand how the recruiting game is played from a college coach's perspective. They're casting a pretty sizable net of potential prospects to look at and to communicate with, and they're going to keep in communication. If they have maybe one spot for a catcher for their 2020 or 2021 class, they might be actively communicating with 5 to 10 catchers or even more that they're strongly interested in at the same time. And with the advent of all this showcases and camps and the online stuff with Perfect Game, Prep Baseball Report, and different, databases, coaches have pretty much, almost an all-you-can-eat buffet of potential players to consider that, might be in their realm of possibility to recruit. So it's just that's challenging for college coaches. And on the flip side, yeah.
So you're seeing a high demand is what you're saying too, right?
Yes.
And we're, because of that, because I've noticed this over the past, I guess we're the same age here, so I've noticed this over our professional, coming out of the game and just watching the
Yep.
game continue to unfold as coaches and professionals in it. I've just seen how it seems like they're recruiting younger now. It seems like not only they're recruiting younger, but they're making more verbal commitments. Like verbal commitments now seem like every school is doing
Yeah.
it way ahead of the game. So is just all representation of what the demand has become?
Yeah, I mean, I think the environment, the recruiting environment with early offers and, how aggressive it can be and everything is a function of, I think, the NCAA has provided some rules and regulations, but it's still a bit of a wild, wild west in terms of how you can, get things done and make offers to kids in the 8th grade, get kids on campus through a camp to be a quasi unofficial visit. And there's just ways to work around the rules. And it's not a tough, nut to crack, for the NCAA to try to figure out exactly what the rules and regulations would be, to manage this. But it's important, I think, for players and for families to really get educated on. And we speak with thousands of families every summer and every fall at different showcases, travel teams, events that we work with, and online stuff with workshops and webinars. But it's really important, to get clear on where your son is, skill level, athleticism, where they are in the recruiting timeline, and what their projectability is, kind of future outlook. Because you got to know where you are first before you can evaluate what showcases or camps to go to. Should I use a recruiting service? Do I look at these schools? Are these schools realistic? Are they dream schools? And that's where there's a huge gap right now, is players and parents often don't understand and know exactly where they are in the process and what steps they should take moving forward to optimize their player development plan and their recruiting game plan.
And there's obviously you're gonna have recommended times and when they should start the recruiting process, but I do hate the pressure of these kids at like 16 already worrying about who they're being recruited by. I mean, how do you balance that out with, making sure you're preparing yourself or putting yourself in the right place without like getting too bent up and where you're going to go to college when you're just coming into high school?
Yeah, great question. I think the biggest thing is, you got to understand, where you are in the process. Then you need to understand what are the scouting benchmarks per the different levels of college baseball that college coaches are looking for. So are you a right-hander who's, going into your senior year, you're 82 to 84 miles an hour. You can throw 3 pitches for a mix. You're kind of a pitcher, you're a pitchability guy. However, you haven't heard from any college coaches yet. You're still thinking, you want to keep open to D1. You're doing a velocity program. You're doing the workout stuff. And, you're just, if you're going after the D1s at this point, you're chasing a sunset, and you're running east.
Right.
The sunsets in the west.
Right.
So, you got to know, kind of where you fit in. Now, there's a lot of different levels of college baseball. We've actually broken it down to 10 different levels, distinct levels of college baseball, and what the scouting benchmarks and metrics look for each position.
But I think that brings up a good point to stop you right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made this before. Do you think this is an accurate statement? I say it's easier to play college baseball than it is to play high school baseball. The reason is because in high school you're stuck to a district, unless you're going out now to these private schools. You can go all around the country, but if you're stuck in your local area going to public schools, you're stuck to a district. When you go to college, now it's like that private school in high school. You can pick from anywhere across the country. I mean, don't you think it's easier to play college baseball than it is high school?
Well, in terms of, I think that statement's a little I think I know where you're going with it, where you have just more choice. Like you might be at a stacked school, like Kingwood High School. I'm in Houston right now, at some different events. Kingwood High School, right? Pretty stacked school. And you might be literally on the bench and you're still a college prospect, even though you got 0 playing time on varsity. You're still good enough to
that's the point,
to go
right?
play somewhere.
That school's talent, they could probably beat a D3 or a small level NAIA college, don't you think?
Some of them, yes. Some of them can. And that's why, 10 different levels of college baseball that we've determined based on, talking with hundreds of college coaches every month on, what are their measurables? What are they looking for? Who can fit in and compete at their level? And then having, over 1,000 guys move on to the college baseball ranks and seeing, some players that have great success that just were not, dudes coming out of high school at all.
And I think you're nailing I'm glad you keep saying the measurables, because that's the key. And I tell the parents this a lot. Tell me if this is accurate. I say, you don't want to try to sell a product if it's not a good product, right? You don't want to be out going to trade shows with a product that is, is not standard to the market, at least, or average to the market. So don't you believe, for you being the recruiter, isn't it a lot easier to recruit or help guys be recruited if they have the measurables that all the schools are looking for?
Yes. Our role, you'll see on our website, you'll see what I talk about is a lot about recruiting, but I'm very passionate about player development. And so is our entire team of former college coaches and MLB scouts, guys that are in the game. Because baseball is one of the most beautiful sports in terms of player development, because focused attention on the right things in the right order in terms of your athletic development and your skill acquisition, you can make quantum leaps in terms of your ability through this game. Not many other sports allow you such a range of potential progression in a short amount of time, that baseball can provide if you're optimized in terms of, your overall player development, approach and plan. So with that being said, where players and families make huge amounts of mistakes and waste huge amounts of money is they're chasing down the exposure game of showcases and college camps, and they're getting bombarded with emails to go to all these things, and they're not ready to get the exposure. They're getting exposed, and they're taking expensive field trips to the wrong events at the wrong time.
You're right, and this is where you and I team up well, because I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying There's not enough player development, allocated time for player development in this sport, and there's too many trends to just showcase and not develop, and therefore you're watering down talent across the country. You're creating high amounts of injury, and potentially people really aren't getting what they want. Wouldn't you think it'd be a better model to come through an organization like me with Top Velocity and develop those measurables, and then work with a recruiter like with you at Sports Force to find a school that they fit into, as opposed to just spreading out their average talent all across America?
100%, 100% agree. And I'm not saying, I'm the only good recruiting company that's out there. I think we do some things that are world-class, and we have a unique approach, to it. And obviously a nationwide network of college coaches that we're in touch with all the time. And you have a, unique science-based, innovative approach to your development. But there's obviously other pitching guys that are out there as well, and development groups. I think if I was a parent of a 16-year-old right-handed pitcher today, and he's throwing 80 to 82 miles an hour, and he loves the game of baseball, Um, and he's shown some success, but he's really has a desire to play college baseball. I would look at his entire baseball world and his athletic development world and say, okay, what is he doing? And kind of what's the schedule and the game plan, and then how can I surround him and his goals and dreams to go to the next level with the best potential mentors and guides and experts that are going to allow him to get in a healthy and safe manner, progress his skill level and his joy and passion for the game as much as possible in as short of a period as possible.
Correct.
And because that's and I'll let you say something in a second, because this is a ticking clock. I mean, you're a 16-year-old, 2021 grad. You're going into your junior year. You got probably 300, we'll say 450 days until, national letter of intent senior year signing period. There's a countdown just to that early signing period. And, a majority of the offers, for many schools are being made before the signing period, obviously. So anyway, I'll let you dive in.
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it. And the challenge is nobody's clock works perfectly.
Yep.
I was a late bloomer. So, if it doesn't mean if you don't get in, I think people get the anxiety of, I haven't gotten any offers my junior year. I think there's last case scenarios here, or, kind of backdoor opportunities here. Of course, I mean, I went through a lot of them, but the thing is do your best to do, like you said, and develop in a short amount of time as much as you can to make yourself more attractive to the levels you want to play at. But do not cut corners to do that, because unfortunately, specifically with pitchers, who I deal with mainly, is you set yourself up for serious injury, or what you do is you compromise your health in college. Like I did. I get the end. My senior year, I didn't have a lot of size. I was a late bloomer, and I was being overthrown, overpitched, and I wanted to be, because I wanted everybody to see me, because I wanted to go play at LSU. And then all of a sudden, I'm in a JUCO because I knew this would help me get a couple more years. And then my fourth inning, my first game, I'd tear my rotator cuff. We do have to avoid that pitfall, because that's a major one. But the key is don't take shortcuts. Get with the right organizations that are going to help you develop, help you prepare yourself for recruiting and putting those talents out there, and make sure you're getting the best advice to where you are getting in a short amount of time, but you're not cutting corners to do it.
Yes. And, I said safe and healthy manner, and maybe that was people glaze over that, right? Like, what does that actually mean? I think that means, is there evidence-based scientific approach to the skill acquisition process, especially in pitching? But I think I'm seeing it more in position players now, dealing with early hip injuries that are going to affect their career.
Right.
Like, if they don't get ahead of it and address it, they're going to be, they're going to have blown out hips by the time they get to college, because they're not taking care of their core and understanding how the range of motion, the mobility, and all the things that go into staying healthy. But you and I talked about this at the ABCA, and I want to get back to it. And as an organization, we do not have a specific preference of saying, we're only going to work with kids that are D1 talent. Or you got to go to a 4-year and not go the JC route. Like, the biggest thing is, what are going to be the decisions that are going to put, this young man and family in the best possible position to continue to develop, to continue to have, play with, joy and freedom, continue to financially look at the return on investment that a family is putting into this whole process, and just have as many quality choices of colleges and opportunities, and then be in that position of leverage and make a great college decision. And making a great college decision, I think, is being overlooked right now. Everybody talks about, find the right college fit, make a good decision. This is, a decision that's not 4 years, it's 40 years. Like, everybody's kind of thinking that way, but they're not deconstructing it to really make, methodically thought out and very, clear decisions, because you got 1,500 players right now on the transfer portal that have said, I want to go somewhere else. Division I, Division II players that are trying to go to a new spot. And a good amount of them are not going to find a new home.
Right. So, and I think with you, obviously, I think a lot of people think recruiting, they think what they would see in the movie of, he's going to set me up and I'm going to get a verbal intent when I'm 16 to my favorite D1, and then I'm going to sign, and then I'm going to get drafted, and then I'm going to make a decision, should I go into the draft or should I go to college? Like, everyone probably thinks, recruiting, that's how it works. No, I think the reason for organizations like you is that, yeah, of course, you can take guys through those perfect scenarios, but more than likely, you spend most times helping people work through all the pitfalls and all the obstacles that typically come on the average case, that doesn't lay out perfectly. Wouldn't you say that's probably where you spend most of your time?
Yes. I think a couple main areas that, first, just laying out the evaluation of the student athlete and kind of where they are is a big one. Identifying the goals that the family has overall, and really questioning how they're looking at college academically, athletically, financially, geographically, and a few other kind of factors. And then really understanding what schools would fit into that equation based on the evaluation and the goals. And typically it's going to be a target list of 30 to 40 schools. It's not going to be 5 to 10. Average family that submits a target list that we've seen in 10 plus years usually includes 10 to 15 schools, of which most of them are just dream schools. So really identifying the schools, suggesting colleges that families haven't considered that might be a great fit is a huge deal as well. And then, the kind of exposure, showcase, and player development strategies is a major part of what we do, and pointing players in the right direction on how to evaluate that. And then, making sure that college coaches that are on that player's target list are aware of who the player is and why they should, care about recruiting that potential player, is something that, we help out with, because, we carefully maintain, hundreds of relationships with college coaches at the Division I level, hundreds at the Division II, same at the Division III. And now we've really expanded reach into, a lot of junior college as well, because, we've had a growing number of kids that are deciding, and families that are deciding the junior college route is going to be a great fit.
So where does even though we've kind of demonized it, where does the showcase ball come in, in the recruiting process?
Sure. It comes in, well, you got to look at it two different ways. So most kids are playing for one travel team, sometimes multiple nowadays, which is a whole nother topic. But so those teams will play typically in some tournaments. And if those tournaments are lined up with evaluation periods for college coaches, then some of those tournaments are going to draw coaches in, right? So we will, kind of evaluate each player individually to say, we recommend, some travel, a travel ball schedule with the team that you're playing with. Here's the tournaments that we know based on our experience that are going to draw in some college coaches. And here's, the approach of, we want to make sure that each one of our players, before they're going to a tournament that might have college coaches, is we're alerting those college coaches on kind of when and where that player is playing, or if he's pitching, when he's pitching. Because college coaches don't go to tournaments typically just walking around mindlessly. They have an idea of what teams and players that they want to see, and they're going to get in and get out and move to another game. Almost like they have an agenda of appointments that they need to get to. So that's on the travel ball side of things, just making sure if players are going to events that are going to have college coaches, what's the best approach to get as much of a return on investment for these families, because every one of these tournaments, if you're traveling, whether it's by car, by plane, and you're doing hotels, everything adds up really quick. Families are some are easily spending $10,000, this summer chasing down different showcases and camps or tournaments. So does that make sense, just kind of from a travel ball standpoint?
Yeah.
Now, on the individual showcase side of things, which is college camp invites, individual showcase stuff, there's been such an explosion of the number of outfits that are doing these that parents are overwhelmed. They're just, which one's a money grab? How do I know it's legit? And it's just creating chaos. And so, the approach that we take is going back to the player's evaluation and where they are in their recruiting timeline and their athleticism and development, is just a very strategic approach to what events are going to make the most sense for where that player is. And then if they're getting, individual college camp invitations, which ones are recruiting for their class at that player's position, and making sure that player falls in line with that potential college fit before just, randomly going to a college camp.
Perfect. So at this point, if we could give us an understanding of the benefits of working with Sports Force versus just doing this on your own.
Sure. Doing it on your own, it can be done. It can be stressful. Most parents are going through this recruiting process for the first time, especially if it's in baseball. You might have had a child who, played softball or another sport, but baseball is a pretty unique animal. And the kind of overarching benefits that we want to bring to the families that we work with. And to be clear, I didn't mention this earlier, but we get contacted, by hundreds of families and players a week right now, and we're only working with a small percentage of them, because we go through like a 5-step qualification process on the athletic and academic profile, because we're, advocating for our players, writing scouting reports and sending that directly to college coaches. So it isn't just hey, log on to our website and anybody can just sign up to what we do.
Cool.
So that's a major benefit just right there, meaning I'm going to know that I'm going to get an honest evaluation and understand where I fit in, and just have that, discretion of our approach, is unique in the industry right now. But the biggest value propositions, that we want to provide, or the benefits that we want to provide, is we want to ultimately have a very personalized recruiting game plan to help that student athlete maximize the potential recruiting offers with colleges that would be the best fit academically, athletically, and financially for the family, guide the family through evaluating those offers, and ultimately make the best decision, so they can move on and use baseball and their education to set themselves up, for a successful life after college. And we execute that through, kind of a few major principles, and that is making sure that the evaluation of the player is being done on an ongoing basis. Packaging the player with video, stats, measurables, etc., is being done in the most professional manner to grab college coaches' attention and to add players to those colleges' recruiting boards. And that's a continuous process. And we use social media, we use email, we use personal, relationships, everything we can possibly do to try to, maximize the amount of recruiting opportunities for the players that we work with. And then we guide and mentor, the players and the families through, here's where you are on your journey. For a young player who's maybe having a first conversation with a college coach, that can be really intimidating. We want our players to know, here's what you're getting into, in this conversation with a college coach. Here's some questions you should be prepared to answer, and here's questions you should be prepared to ask, and why. And that goes all the way until helping the parents understand their roles and responsibility in this process as well, because there's been countless parents in the history of recruiting, that have literally, been destructive or detrimental in their kids' recruiting potential because they were too involved, and trying to represent, their son, in the recruiting process, and it turned off a college coach.
Yeah, I've heard that story many times.
Yeah, and college coaches can identify a parent, who's going to be a problem from a mile away. Like, they've just seen it so many times. If you're a parent who's being very vocal in the stands and sometimes maybe a little over the top, college coaches will find out who your kid is. They want to know what they're getting into. So doesn't mean don't be excited and supportive and encouraging and vocal, but keep it very positive. And college coaches talk. At the end of the day, college coaches will also talk to other college coaches, and we've heard of players just getting burned because of how parents' behavior.
And wouldn't you say, if I'm looking back to kind of my coming up, I'm thinking how this would have benefited me. Probably statistically, am I wrong? Kids typically probably pick colleges very close to where they're from, wouldn't you say?
We've seen obviously a lot of different, case studies. There are some statistics out there that a majority, which just means obviously over 50%, are going to usually pick colleges, within a 4 to 5 hour drive of their home. Now, depending on where you live, that can sometimes be a challenge, right? If you live in, I would say Arizona is a good example, right? We work with a lot of players and coaches in Arizona. You got 3 Division I's in the state, you got a couple NAIs, and you got a bunch of junior colleges. And so you got really good talent, but you don't have a lot of college options nearby. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. And I try to, and our organization tries to keep families' minds open. Because here's the example, right? Let's say you got a kid in your area in Louisiana, and he's like, "Hey, Andrew, our family and my son, and we would really like to stay, within a few hour drive, and be able to find a school that's right around here locally." And I say, okay, well, so we spoke with the coaches over at Southern Illinois. They had a chance to see your son play, in that recent tournament there, and really like how your son pitches and command and whatnot. So, would you like me to tell that Southern Illinois coach that your son has zero interest in their school and to just lose your kid's number?
Right.
What do you think the response is?
Yeah. Well,
they go, oh no. Like, I know Southern Illinois. I just looked it up. They're a low Division I program. The new coach is there from Missouri. Like, they're probably, you know what I mean? And they just start, opening up.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, what I've seen is that parents and players will go where the love is.
Right.
Well, but you got to find the love.
Right. And my point is they don't know much outside of their local area. So that's why, you're a recruiting organization like yours is doing that. It's saying, hey, look, we've got relationships with schools all around the country, and here's some, across the country right now that I think would be great fits for you, that I guarantee you would really want your type, your ability, whatever. And it just opens your eyes to where you could potentially go. And that's exciting, I think, for a young kid when he starts to see, wow, there's all these great schools all over the country. And then it brings in, it changes your life, man. Growing up, when I went out to California to start playing minor league ball, I mean, I met my wife out there. I still go out there all the time. Almost feels like my second home. It's cool when you start having someone who can open your eyes to all the more possibilities than what you thought were out there.
Absolutely. And along that point, I think for families, if parents are listening, which I know many of them are, is that some of these schools that you might not have thought of yet can provide great financial packages, combining athletic, academic money, need-based aid. You might be in certain states where it's expensive to go to college, or there's schools around you. You might be in states where, hey, if we just stay in state, we're going to save a lot of dough. However, and we tell this to parents all the time, you can't look at the sticker price of the university and make your decisions based on the sticker price of the university. Until you understand what the net price is, the final price that your family would pay for your son to go to college there, then you can make your decisions financially.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great point. Because you're right. You're going to have some schools that are going to, might be a $40,000 a year school, and they might give you like $30,000 in financial support,
Oh, exactly. I mean, we talked with and had a number of players, recruited to Ivy League schools, and some of these high academic schools, parents don't realize, okay, so yes, their sticker price is very high. However, they can put together, tremendous packages based on the level of, endowment and resources, financial resources that they have, for the students that are going to that school. And each school, typically is going to have a different kind of calculator of how they come up with that. So it isn't like you can just say, oh, my family makes $150,000 household income, and just because XYZ school is only going to give us $5,000 a year in aid, that doesn't mean that 5 other schools can't put together packages that are way better.
Right. I mean, I went to a Jesuit college in Mobile, Alabama called Spring Hill, and it was almost $30,000 back then, and I only had to pay like $5,000 a year to go there with academic and athletic scholarships. So, yeah, if I was sitting there going, oh, my God, this is a 30 – my dad was build houses and was in the Navy. We weren't poor, but it's like we never would have been able to afford that up, just straight up. I mean, I never would have walked in there if I didn't have that financial support, which is profound. I mean, like I tell players that's why you got to consider going into college is you're a professional athlete, really. I mean, there's an exchange there. There's a scholarship. Yep. That's money. I mean, if technically I was getting paid $30,000 a year to play college baseball, which is that's a great salary,
Sure.
I think you got to look at it that way.
Well, I think you do. And I just know kind of in our efforts and what we tell families is, I mean, yes, if your son academically, athletically, and your family's a good kind of qualifier for working together with us, and we all get along and it makes sense to partner. Of course, there's an investment in our program and, our hands-on guidance and help and efforts to maximize those offers. However, what we've seen is through 10 and a half years is we're going to cut through those low return on investment decisions that families throw money at. And it comes in many different forms. College camp is one form. An individual showcase is another form. Chasing down a tournament that your travel ball team plays in that doesn't, generate any college coaches' attendance, could be another one. The wrong player development approach or services related to that, or instructor that doesn't, fit the bill. Massive amounts of money can be saved by just having a discriminating your choices to the right, highest value generating, opportunities. So we'll tell a family, we'll say, hey, we're going to save you the money that would be that would substantiate the investment in our program as we work together. And then our goal is we're going to help you get as many recruiting opportunities. And with that, then you're going to have more leverage to figure out the best financial packages at the schools because you're getting recruited by multiple schools simultaneously. And our goal is to help you not overpay for college and save as much money as you possibly can there. Because like your dad, my dad was in the Navy, split family, parents got divorced. So it wasn't a 2-household income. And it was critical that we got a really good financial package to go to college. I had an older brother who went to college. So there was, an outlay of money that my parents put toward that. So I get the plight that is currently going on by families trying to figure out where to put their dollars.
Especially with the cost of school today is insane. Well, look, in closing, because we're drawing long here, talk about so that they can basically going through the process with SportsForce. First of all, sportsforceonline.com is the website. I think you got some great walkthroughs there, great videos to kind of introduce the steps and the process of what you do at SportsForce. But give them a quick kind of walkthrough. Tell them where do they go? They go to the site. They sign what? They do what? They call you, whatever. And kind of if you make it, what's kind of the process to get them going?
Sure. Well, so we have the sportsforceonline.com/baseball is for our baseball specific site to check out. And then, social media wise, just at SportsForceBB for baseball is where you can see a good amount of the stuff that we're doing as well. But at the end of the day, the best way to get in touch with us is either send us a message at scouting@sportsforceonline.com. Another opportunity is if you want your son to be evaluated by one of our staff, then we have an evaluation form on our baseball website to fill out and complete. It's kind of a recruiting questionnaire. And then I'd say thirdly, you can just DM us on social media, Instagram, SportsForceBB, Twitter, SportsForceBB. And we're getting a massive amount of players and parents that are submitting video and measurables with their kids and their grades through social media as well. So give you a few different outlets. And we see, so our staff now, we got over 20 former college coaches, players, and MLB scouts in more than 10 different states across the country. We're seeing through various Perfect Game, Prospect Wire, Prep Baseball Report, 5-Tool, Marucci World Series, which I'm heading to, and we got another guy with our organization heading to later this week. We're seeing thousands of players play every summer, so we're actually scouting and evaluating, as well as face-to-face meeting, hundreds of college coaches through different events that we're going to as well. So we're in the trenches. We're not just, an organization that's, in an office from a cubicle trying to sign up, kids by, by the thousands. And that stuff is out there, and you got to be aware of that as a family to not fall into those traps of different organizations that don't have a qualification process. But yeah, that's it. Everything starts for us with an evaluation on the skill level, the academic profile, the athleticism, and, the overall, just kind of understanding of where the current recruiting status is for us to then diagnose how we can help, what we can do, if it's potentially a good fit or not.
Perfect, man. Well, that was awesome, man. I really appreciate taking the time to do this and educate everybody on the recruiting process and what you guys do and kind of the different roads you can take and just, understanding the business, the good parts, the bad parts. And I think parents, I hope those parents listening and players listening, they got a lot of education on this and will make better decisions in their career. I know you've given them every way they can find you. Any last words on this?
Yeah, I would say, what we, if you have no idea where your son is, or if you're a player listening or you're a coach listening and you have no idea where you are in this process, we're going to be rolling out a lot of education. We're rolling out our own podcast as well that we've already recorded some interviews with some college coaches. But I would say one thing that we've seen has been pretty cool is players have been just saying, hey, I want to know what the measurables are for my position for the different levels. And because that's kind of like, it's not very publicly accessible information to say, oh, I'm a catcher. I throw a 2.1 down to second. I'm going into my junior year. I'm 6 foot, 165 pounds. Like, where do I fit in? So I'll leave that as an open invitation to give value to, Brent, you and your whole community. If people want to learn, we're here to share, because ultimately the more educated this baseball community gets of coaches, players, parents, and professionals that are in it, we will raise the level of quality. I think we'll raise the level of competition. And I think we're going to raise the level of people saying, you know what, my dollar can generate, a return on investment, and I don't feel so lost, in this process of trying to help my kid reach their dreams.
Yeah, same thing. That was good. I get that a lot too with the measurables, and the goal from player development side is just trying to give them the tools and the programming, the understanding of putting their bodies in the right positions to be able to reach for those goals. Because I think the sad part is the kids don't understand that, and they're trying to reach for their goals before they're really prepared for it. And then that's why I think we have such an injury problem. But you're right, education's the key. Educating and and like you said, be careful there, because there's still a lot of organizations out there that they prey on those that they can kind of mislead. And then there's those out there that I believe, like the ones that I'm associated, like here with Sports Force, that I believe are doing it the right way. And it might not be, they probably don't use a lot of the same marketing approaches, but it doesn't mean that they're not as good or better. That's why you got to really do your homework and learn more about them.
Absolutely.
All right, Andrew, I appreciate that so much, man. I'm going to shut it down.
You got it, brother. Have a good one.